Hello YouTube! In this video I'm going to outline the knowability paradox, which concerns the nature of truth and knowledge, and this is one of the central challenges for anti-realist theories of truth. So I will explain why the knowability paradox matters and how it is derived. But before getting to that, a quick advert. If you like my channel, you can support me on Patreon or with a one-off donation on PayPal. I offer private tutoring. Please send me an email if you are interested in that. And you can also join the Discord if you want to talk about any of these topics. The link for that will be in the description. Okay then. Now, before outlining the knowability paradox, it's worth explaining some of the background and why it matters. So one of the central debates in philosophy is the question, what is truth? What is it that makes a proposition true or false? Now, philosophers have proposed many different theories of truth. Obviously, truth is an important topic in its own right, and it's closely connected to a variety of other philosophical topics. No matter what philosophical topics you're interested in, at some point you're probably going to say something about truth. So, what the hell is truth? So the standard theory of truth among philosophers, and this is, I assume, a fairly commonsensical theory, is the correspondence theory. According to correspondence theory, some proposition P is true just in case P corresponds to the facts, just in case P matches the way the world is. So take the proposition, the cat is on the mat, and assume it's true. Assume it's true that the cat is on the mat. Well, what makes this proposition true, according to the correspondence theory, is that it corresponds to a state of affairs. So the term cat refers to an object in the world, the term mat refers to an object in the world, and those objects are indeed related in the way that's described by the proposition. So truth consists in a relation between propositions and facts. I mean, you can imagine a list of all propositions on the one hand and then the objective states of affairs on the other. Some of those propositions will match the states of affairs, and those are the true propositions. Now, I mean, obviously, when we talk about a proposition matching the facts or corresponding to the facts, that's a little bit vague. We don't need to get into all of the details in this context, but hopefully you've got some intuitive idea of, what might be going on with a proposition matching the way the world is. Now, there are various objections to the correspondence theory. Again, this is a topic for another video. But one major concern that some philosophers have with the correspondence theory is that it puts the truth beyond our grasp. The correspondence theory tells us that a proposition is true just in case it corresponds to a state of affairs in reality. But obviously, we can never step outside of our own perspectives. We can never step outside of our own minds and view reality as it is in itself to check that the propositions correspond to reality. We can never access reality as it is in itself. So, we can't look at propositions on the one hand and then mind-independent reality on the other and check that they correspond. I mean, there is some sense in which we will kind of check that our beliefs match the facts. But usually what's going on there is that we're kind of comparing things that we believe with other things that we believe. So if I believe that, John is at the beach, I then walk down to the beach and maybe observe him, or maybe I don't observe him, but either way, I'm not it's not like I'm just viewing reality as it is in itself, instead I'm going to have the belief that John is at the beach, and then I walk down to the beach, and then that creates other beliefs, based on things that I perceive. So one worry here is that on correspondence theory, truth just becomes completely divorced from, our kind of capacities, from the things that we can justify. Truth becomes a matter of mere metaphysical speculation, completely irrelevant to practical inquiry. So suppose, for example, that we developed a theory of the world that could pass every test imaginable. This theory makes all the correct predictions, it can be applied to create new technologies, it satisfies all the relevant theoretical virtues. So it's simple, it has great explanatory power, it contains no ad hoc assumptions, and so on. Basically, this theory is, as far as we can tell, totally watertight. Nobody can come up with a compelling objection to it. Even so, according to correspondence theory, this theory, this perfect theory, might be false. I mean, it might not be completely true. Even a theory that passes every test we can imagine might still fail to correspond to reality in one way or another. There might still be some aspects of the theory that are just wrong because, the facts are different from what we can know. I mean, of course, we can never know this, right? By stipulation, we can never know that the theory is wrong, but that's because there could be facts about reality that we just can't know. There could be facts that are beyond our grasp, so there could be truths that are completely beyond our grasp. So we might worry that correspondence theory makes truth inaccessible to us, or it makes truth just totally impractical. Like the concept truth, it just plays no useful role in our inquiries. Now, correspondence theory is one example of a realist theory of truth. And in general, according to realist theories of truth, propositions are true or false independently of whether anybody can, in principle, come to know that they are true. So, according to realist theories of truth, there could be truths that are never known to us, and can never be known to us. Basically, according to realist theories, the truth is something that exists completely independent of us and our activities. We discover the truths, and there's no reason to expect that we will be lucky enough that all truths might be knowable. So any realist theory is going to similarly face this challenge that, that these like independent truths are inaccessible, or, that truths are irrelevant to practical inquiry. And these worries about realist theories are going to motivate anti-realist theories of truth. The anti-realist is going to try to draw a stronger link between the truth and our means of justification. So here are some options. There are many anti-realist theories, but so this isn't exhaustive, this is just some examples. So we might say that any truth is, in principle, open to verification. Truth does not outstrip our means of verification. This kind of view was popular among the logical positivists. According to the positivists, the meaning of a sentence is given by its verification condition, where the verification condition is basically the set of observations that would confirm or disconfirm the sentence. So take the sentence, "It is raining." Well, we know what observations we would have to make to show that this sentence is true, and we know what observations we would make to show that it's false. So like, if we walk outside and see droplets of water falling from the sky, this confirms the sentence. And if we walk outside and there's just lots of sunlight and so on, that would disconfirm the sentence. So we know the observations that would confirm and disconfirm the sentence. So the thought is, if a proposition is true, there's some set of observations we could make that would confirm the proposition. Or we might say that the truth is whatever we would believe in ideal epistemic circumstances. If we had all the available data, and we were perfectly rational, so we never make any logical mistakes, we were never misled by cognitive biases and so on. Whatever theory we would develop under these ideal circumstances of total evidence and perfect rationality, that is the truth, by definition. Or we might say, following Charles Peirce, that the truth is whatever we will agree upon at the end of inquiry. The truth is, as Peirce said, the opinion which is fated to be ultimately agreed to by all who investigate. So the thought here is, once, the general idea is, look, once we can make no further improvements to our theory, it's just completely idle to ask the further question, well, what is the world really like? But is this theory really true? Like, once we have that perfect theory, it just doesn't really even make sense to ask, but is that theory really true? Okay, well, hopefully you can see why we might take anti-realist theories seriously. Again, these are just some examples, and there are plenty of philosophers who will endorse one form of anti-realism or another. Now, more precisely, these anti-realist theories are going to be committed to the knowability principle. And the knowability principle says that for all propositions P, if P is true, then it is possible to know that P. So I've written this out in a more formal language there. The upside down A symbol, that means for all. So this says for all P, and then in brackets, if P is true, then it is possible to know that P. So the diamond means it is possible that, the K means it is known by somebody at some time that. So all propositions P, if P is true, then it is possible to know that P. Of course, given our technological and cognitive limitations, it may not be that we're in a position right now where we can know that P, but there's some set of circumstances under which a person could come to know that P. We maybe could develop some test that would demonstrate that P, or we could come up with a good reason to believe that P. Now, the knowability paradox is an argument which shows that the knowability principle entails that all truths are known. So the claim that all truths are knowable entails that all truths are known. And again, in this, I've written out a bit more formally there. So for all P, if P is true, then it is possible to know that P. This entails, and the little turnstile symbol there means entails. For all P, if P is true, then P is known. But this conclusion, the claim that all truths are known, that's widely considered to be absurd. Surely, the thought would go, surely there are truths that are unknown, or at least there could be truths that are unknown. Surely we don't know all the truths. Human beings are not currently in ideal epistemic circumstances, and I mean, unless we're very optimistic about the future, we probably never will be. So, surely, surely there are truths that we might not know. Even in principle. So we can consider three positions, basically. We have the realist theory of... So realist theories of truth say there could be truths that are just in principle unknowable, truths that exceed our grasp. Then we have moderate anti-realism. And moderate anti-realist wants to say all truths are knowable, at least in principle, but that's it, that's all, right? Some truths are knowable, but obviously, there are things that are truths that are not known. But then we have the extreme anti-realist who says all truths are known. The knowability paradox, if it's successful, rules out the moderate position. Either all truths are either not all truths are knowable, or all truths are known. Okay, so what we will do from now is I'm going to show how the knowability paradox is derived. I'm going to state it using formal notation, but I hope you should be able to follow the argument intuitively, even if you're not familiar with formal logic. It's worth noting that although the knowability paradox is usually presented in terms of formal logic, the underlying idea is, I think, reasonably straightforward. I don't think you need technical logical tools to see the problem. So before outlining the more formal proof, I'm going to state the argument in intuitive terms to give you just the basic idea of what the problem actually is. So let's consider some proposition P, where P is true, but it's not known to be true. So P is an unknown truth. And again, the standard assumption is, okay, there's going to be lots of truths that are unknown, right? So we're just going to imagine one of those currently unknown truths. So then we have the following proposition about P. So the following proposition is true. So proposition U says P is true and P is not known. Okay. Now, if all truths are in principle knowable, then it must be possible to know this sentence. It must be possible to know U. It must be possible to know P is true and P is not known. But once we know this, once we know U, we know each of the conjuncts. I mean, obviously, right? Like if I know a conjunction, I'm going to know each of the conjuncts. So if I know P is true and P is not known, then I know P is true and I know P is not known. But if I know that P is true, then P is no longer not known. I now know that P. So it would then be false that P is true and P is not known. So what this shows is that the sentence P is true and P is not known cannot, even in principle, be both true and known to be true. Right? just even in principle can't be. So so now then, let's suppose that all truths are knowable, as the moderate anti-realist says. What this means is that the set of truths cannot contain any sentence of the form P is true and P is not known. There cannot be. So that just means that there cannot be any truths that are not known. So, and of course, the reason why the set of truths can't contain any proposition of the form P is true and P is not known is that it cannot be known, right? In principle, it is impossible to know this, because knowing this would entail a logical contradiction. So you cannot be known. So if all truths are knowable, then the set of all truths cannot contain any proposition of this form. Okay, so if the set of all truths cannot contain any proposition of this form, then that's just to say that there cannot be any truths that are not known. And of course, that's just to say that all truths are known. So if all truths are knowable, then all truths are actually known. That's the knowability paradox. So that's the problem. Okay then, let's turn to the more formal way of presenting the argument. I'm going to give an abbreviated version in this section, and then I'll present the complete proof in the next. So feel free to skip ahead if you're more comfortable with formal notation. And I guess if you're not comfortable with it at all, you should just stop watching now. Okay, we start off with the knowability principle, which says that all truths are in principle knowable, and this is just a statement of anti-realism about truth, or it's a statement of moderate anti-realism about truth. For all propositions P, if P is true, then it is possible to know that P. And then, of course, we have non-omniscience, which says that there is a truth that is not known, right? Like, we are not omniscient, okay? So there is a proposition P such that P is true, and it is not known that P. And of course, the standard anti-realist will want to endorse both of these claims. The standard anti-realist wants to say, all truths are in principle knowable, but in fact not all truths are known. We're not omniscient. Okay, now consider, so now we'll turn to the proof. So, step one, we take some proposition P, where P is true, but it is not known that P. And this is just an instance of the non-omniscience claim. So, if not all truths are known, then there must be some such proposition, right? If not all truths are known, this is just to say that there is a proposition that is true, but we don't know that it's true. Now take the principle KP, the knowability principle. For all propositions, if the proposition is true, then it is possible to know that the proposition is true. And apply this to line 1. It is possible that it is known that P and that it is not known that P. So we're just applying the knowability principle there to, so line 1, so we just take the claim in line 1 and we see, okay, that's true, so it entails that it is possible to know it. So that gives us line 3, right? It is possible that it is known that P and it is not known that P. Now, if it is possible to know a conjunction, it must be possible to know each conjunct. So we get, it is possible that it is known that P, and it is possible that it is known that it is not known that P. So basically we're just, so from line 3, which says it is possible to know this conjunction, we then get the claim that it is possible that, I know that P, and I know that it is not known that P. Okay, now, if a proposition is known, then that proposition is true, right? So this is just a very sort of simple principle concerning what knowledge is, right? I mean, I can't know falsehoods, right? If I know that P, then P is true. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of debate about the exact analysis of knowledge. Is knowledge justified true belief? Is it, reliably formed true belief? Whatever. But pretty much everybody agrees, if I know a proposition, then that proposition is at least true. Truth is a necessary condition. So apply that then to the second conjunct. So in line 4, we have the claim, it is possible that it is known that P, and that it is known that it is not known that P. So then take that second conjunct, it is known that it is not known that P, and apply the idea that knowledge implies truth, and then we get line 5. Line 5 says it is possible that it is known that P and that it is not known that P. This tells us that a contradiction is possible, but contradictions are not possible. So from the knowability principle and non-omniscience, we have concluded that a contradiction is possible, and that's absurd. So okay, that's a sort of abbreviated form. I'm now going to give a more rigorous proof, and I'm following the presentation given on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy page, Fitch's Paradox of Knowability. Okay, so again, we begin with the knowability principle and with non-omniscience. So have those in mind. We now need to state some simple principles of epistemic logic and modal logic. These are just going to be taken for granted in the proof. So first of all, principle A says that if you know the conjunction P and Q, then you know that P and you know that Q. So that is to say, when you know a conjunction, you know the conjuncts separately. Principle B says, if you know that P, then P is true. It's not possible to know a falsehood. Okay, now for the modal principles. So principle C tells us that all logical theorems are necessary. So if P is provable from if P is provable within the logical system, then P is necessarily true. Principle D says that necessarily not P entails that it is not possible that P. And this is often taken to be just definitional of the modal operators. So if something is necessarily not true, then that's just to say that it's not possible that it's true. So these are fairly uncontroversial principles. Again, we're going to take these for granted. Okay, then. So here's the larger proof. Okay, so we start with an instance of non-omniscience. P and it is not known that P. Now, we take an instance of the knowability principle of Kp, which we generate by substituting. We substitute line 1 for P in Kp. So Kp is a claim about all propositions. 1 is a proposition. So Kp is true of 1. And from this, we get line 2. And from lines 1 and 2, we have a simple modus ponens argument. Right. So from A and if A then B, obviously we can derive B. So we can do that here. Line 2 is a conditional. Line 1 affirms the antecedent of the conditional, so we can derive the consequent that it is possible to know that P and it is not known that P. And already, I mean, as we've seen, this is a troubling conclusion, right? Line 3 says it's possible to know the conjunction P and it is not known that P. I can know that P and I can know that it is not known that P. So, like, already, again, a strange conclusion here. There is a further formal argument to the effect that this conjunction cannot be known. So here's how the rest of the proof proceeds. We start in line 4 with the claim that it is known that P and it is not known that P. And we're assuming this for the purposes of a reductio argument. So then we apply principle A to line 4, and we get the claim that it is known that P, and it is known that it is not known that P. Principle A says that knowing a conjunction entails knowing each of the conjuncts, right? So we just apply that principle to line 4, and we know each of the conjuncts. Now take line 5 and apply principle B to the right conjunct. B says that knowing that P entails that P is true. So if it is known that it is not known that P, then we can conclude it is not known that P. But this, line 6, is an outright contradiction. This says, line 6 says, it is known that P, and it is not known that P. Okay, so we have a contradiction there, and this shows that the assumption at line 4 must be rejected. Okay, so we reject the assumption at line 4, and this gives us line 7. It is not known that P and it is not known that P. Okay, now apply principle C. So principle C says that if P is a logical theorem, then P is necessarily true. We've shown that 7 can be proven because the contrary claim entails a contradiction. So it's necessarily the case that it is not known that P and it is not known that P. And from this, we can apply principle D. It is not possible then. So it is not, so from the claim that it is necessarily not the case, we get it is not possibly the case. So it is not possible to know the conjunction P and it is not known that P. But at this point, of course, we have contradicted line 3. Line 3 says that it is possible to know the conjunction P and it is not known that P. So basically, given the logical principles A, B, C, and D, a contradiction follows from KP and NO. A contradiction follows from the knowability principle and non-omniscience. So the person who endorses the knowability principle has to reject non-omniscience. There does not exist a proposition such that this proposition is true and this proposition is not known. And of course, that is just to say that all truths are known. The view that all truths are knowable entails that all truths are known, at least assuming some very weak, very simple logical principles. Okay, so that is the knowability paradox. I may well do a follow-up video where I discuss responses. There are actually plenty of responses to this problem. I mean, again, the sort of logical resources required to derive the problem do seem fairly simple, and I think actually the intuitive idea of the paradox is fairly simple, but there have been attempted responses. But all I wanted to do in this video is just sort of outline why this paradox matters and how the paradox works, and I hope that you have some grasp of that. Okay then, that is all for today. Thank you for watching.